We met in 2004 through actually our bass player Tracy, who was a mutual friend, and we just started hanging out and playing a little bit of music, but not seriously. And then we ended up getting an opportunity to go and do a contract, and just started playing, 6 nights a week. So got to know each other pretty well musically. And
then decided that we didn't like being in the one spot every night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was going back to America to follow up on some gigs I'd done, some friends I'd made with my old band, and because we'd been playing together. I asked if Leesa might want to come along, and she did. So we threw together a bunch of demos that we'd recorded, and went and hired a van and drove around America.
Mm.
And
it's the Hussy Hicks thing.
Yeah.
That's where the name.
Yeah. Well,
stuck.
we the name was something that I had said stupidly months beforehand, and because we were saying that we should do all of these cover songs, like bluegrass style, like really strange cover songs, like System of a Down, and kind of like heavy metal songs as bluegrass songs. And I said, we'll make a band and we'll call it Hussy Hicks. And it was just this silly idea. And then we needed a name to go on this tour, and it was the only one we had. So we kept it.
Ugly is probably the only song that would have made
that album.
Yeah. But
maybe we'll do it one day.
Yeah. What will we call that band though?
Yeah, we'll have to come up with something even sillier.
The real Hussy Hicks. We can sue ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to explain to people in different languages. Well, you can sort of pull it off in English speaking and sort of say,
Yeah.
we used hussy as a term of endearment with a bit of a cheeky edge to it. And Hicks, because we're from the country, sort of. And but try to explain that to an Italian person or a Chinese person. It's like, hussy, so it's like, I looked it up, it's a very bad word. You're like, we mean the cheeky side, so what is this cheeky? So cheeky, it's like naughty, but not really naughty.
And then all the accents as well, like we in Italy it's always Italian, and Hussy Hicks. You sort of come out on stage, hi, we're Hussy Hicks.
Yeah. Anyway, silliness.
Yeah. And we toured for ages actually.
Till we ran out of blank CDs.
Yeah, just playing as many gigs as we could, and kind of traveling everywhere as well, and kind of working out. Neither of us had spent a lot of dedicated time in the independent scene in Australia, so we were just trying to work out how it all worked and how the festival scenes worked, and trying to get our heads around the whole thing, and just playing as many shows as we could. And then we finally got around to making the first album, and I guess that's when it all got a bit more serious, a bit more focused.
Yeah. Very, very serious.
Yeah. As serious as we can be.
But that all fell in place really nicely and easily. We weren't planning on... We'd been sort of doing lots of different things that may have become the album. Between me recording stuff and some other friends, and different jams in different studios. And we went to spend a day with Bill Chambers, who was down on the Central Coast, and we just thought it'd be nice to hear what his ears would do to a few of our more folky, alty country songs. And we ended up... He was there, and Bill has had Chris Haig living with him at the time, who was a bass player who I've known for years, since the Phil Emanuel band. And he's
wonderful bass player.
Yeah, amazing musician and fun guy to hang out with. And he just sort of kindly said, well, I'm around, I'll sit in. So, we went from going to knock out a couple of demos to running through about 5 songs that day with him, and we're really happy with how it all went, and how it... Because we didn't... When you're an acoustic band, you can take it so many places, and having not established ourselves in any way. We didn't want to get too lost trying to find out what this extended sound would be. So it was really nice just to play the way we play. We had a little bit of bass, which is how we perform now, and just a bit of percussion, and because we ended up finishing that day with 5 tracks.
Yeah, it was a really live sound, really sort of very natural kind of. There wasn't a lot of production that went into it. It just kind of happened, and Bill has this wonderful way of making you feel really comfortable and just, a very sort of have a go kind of attitude, and it just worked really well. And we walked away from that day, and he said, look, we'd only planned to do like 2 or 3 songs, and he said, look, if you guys wanted to come back and spend another day, we'd finish this album. I said, all right, yeah, good idea. So 2 days recording and then a day mixing, and it was done. And that was the first little album that we actually pressed and got artwork done and released and put on iTunes, and and then we toured that all around the place, around Australia, and then we went to China. We did a tour, and
Europe,
and then took it to Europe. Yeah, and that was our first trip to Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, everything fell into place almost too easily. It was like we'd both been pushing different things and working on different projects. Like I spent a lot of years working with my brother and a drummer, and everything you do leading up to it, for both of us, we'd both done things, and it was like everything just fell into place, and we've had a really easy few years. And
we work hard. But it's not really work, is it?
I don't think it is work, and sometimes there's annoying things but still, it's sending an email to the other side of the world and then picturing that you get to be in the castle in Italy. Yeah, that's easy. When you get have to work out how you're going to pay for the flights and all that sort of stuff, can sometimes be hard.
Yeah, that's the boring bit.
Before we went on our first trip, we had a horrible... We'd booked a month of shows, and...
Broome?
In Broome, yeah. It was supposed to be just a month of solid dates.
Like a residency,
Which that was going to pay for us to get to China and then Italy, which is when the sort of real tour was going to start, and these gigs were great gigs. We were stoked we'd gotten, and 2 weeks before we were supposed to go to Broome and play that run of gigs, which was going to pay for everything, we got a call, and the agents had stuffed up with each other.
They basically just double booked us.
Yeah.
Which meant that we not only had turned down a month worth of work that we could have taken in other parts of the country, but we just had absolutely no income coming in for that.
It was the best thing that ever happened.
Oh, definitely. But I had secured a sponsorship, and this company were giving us this van, this camper van to drive all the way around the country, and we were going to write little travel blogs and stuff, and so we had all this planned. So we were going to drive to Broome and then spend 4 weeks there, doing reporting on all the cool things that there were to do and that we were up to as musicians, and we were just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We've already arranged to drive all across the country.
Yeah.
And
but it was great. I just went on a manic 2 week.
Jill spent 2 weeks on the phone just calling everyone who knew of venues, every venue in the paper, in the yellow pages, and before you knew it, we had this sort of 6 week tour.
Yeah.
And
we made more money than we would have. We sold more CDs. We met more people.
Yeah.
That was our first trip to Nannup.
Yeah,
that was just by chance. We saw there was this festival, in Nannup, which we knew nothing of, but we were going to be passing right past at the same time. So I emailed Phaedra and said, look, I know that the program is, I'm sure, long set away.
Well, it was only about 2 weeks out, wasn't it?
And I said, but we're going to be passing through, and doing this blog for the World Nomads at the time. And I said, look, if you got any free slots at all, we don't want any money, we just want to come and hang out and be a part of the festival. And she wrote back, as I expected she would, saying, look, the program is all full, and has been for a while, because you don't. And then she rang, or maybe 2 days later, and said, oh, actually, I can probably sneak you in on the Friday night, or the Saturday, Arvo, or... Anyway,
we ended up getting 2 shows, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was... The last, we did one show in the day, and we did the pub last, and it was after the headliner had finished, so we had a great...
On the Sunday, it was like
Sunday
we played
after
at
Ben
like
Lee
10
played.
o'clock at the pub or something. So we had everyone coming out of the amphitheatre, and we just had the funnest set. It was so much fun, and
Haven't been able to get rid of us since.
yeah, we every year we just keep coming back. But and again, that would never have happened if we didn't lose this month's worth of work that we were really relying on. So we drove all around the country. Ended up
Playing Derby and Fitzroy Crossing and
Halls Creek,
and
Kununurra, or like anywhere they'd have us basically. It was amazing, and we got a few other gigs at another venue in Broome, which was great, and and then we ended up making enough money to get over to China and then to get to Europe, and
we were going to get our album properly pressed in China, and we were in Singapore on the way to China to play at this festival, and Björk had been in town and had a big rant about freeing Tibet.
Just before the Olympics, so it would have been April, and the Olympics were going to be in August. Is that right?
Or at some point later.
So
yeah, and they cancelled all this festival that we were playing at, which was the reason we had visas to get into the country. So we're in Singapore on the way to China, and we're going, well, I don't know if our visas are valid anymore, and we're trying to work all this out. And we got there, and they didn't. Yeah, fortunately, with 1 billion people, maybe they don't realise every music festival it has or hasn't been cancelled. And we got there, and we had planned to get a pressing of our albums, because you don't sell albums in China for very much money, so you don't want to be making them in Australia and selling them in China. We got taken along to the pressing place. We talked to them, it was all great, and they've got this great Chinese rate. And then they said, "Oh, we need the stamp from the Communist Party, the red." They had this red stamp.
Seal. Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, we can't make proper copies of your album. We can't."
Because they couldn't prove that we owned the copyright on it, even though we had documents, we had all our paperwork, but we didn't have this official seal, this stamp. So they offered to make us 1,000
dodgy copies.
burnt copies with a photocopied cover. And we're like, I don't know if we can do our first tour of Europe with
China quality
photocopied CDs.
Yeah.
So we then had to go and get them pressed in
London,
which was probably the most expensive way we could possibly do it. But as an independent band, you always sort of have to find a way to make things work, and that's how we ended up doing it. So. Yeah, and then and we tripped around Europe for about 5 weeks, and I just had the most magical time. It was incredible. Played all over the place, and we played this festival in Italy that was run by some people Julz met when she was playing with Phil and Tommy Emmanuel years ago, and we're going back to play that again this year, actually, May. So it'll be our 3rd time of playing that festival, which will be really nice.
Yeah, Tracy's going to come over and play bass again. She was there last year, which is always nice.
Yeah, this is where we, spend lots of time eating wonderful food and drinking lots of wine, and coming back several kilos heavier. It's worth it though.
Where should we go from there?
I don't know.
What about how you individually got started in music?
You go.
have always had music in my life. My dad's a massive music lover, so some of my earliest memories was him and his friends sitting around in the kitchen, just jamming out old Neil Young tunes and old blues tunes and playing. Dad plays harmonica, and he had friends who all played guitar and sang and all that. And I used to play violin when I was a tiny baby, from about 3 till 5, and then I think I wanted to do what they were doing, and they were playing guitars, and so I started playing guitar when I was about 7 or 8. I was just lucky to be exposed to lots of good musicians and good music, and so that when I was eager to learn stuff, there was always a lot of inspiration. I used to go be spoilt for choice on a Sunday afternoon on Sydney's northern beaches, because a guy called Terry Murray, who's an amazing guitar player, who I ended up getting lessons with for a while. He'd play every Sunday, and then after Phil Emanuel Band was playing, which was not a band, it was an acoustic version. It was him, Bill Ryan and Steve Sampson. So it was Phil's amazing electric guitar work and the other two guys. Bill Ryan played acoustic guitar and sang beautifully, and Steve Sampson was a really great bass player and beautiful harmonies. So they just would sing this amazing collection of songs with Phil just playing the most beautiful, tasteful electric over it. And I used to go there every week, ride my bike down with luckily my dad loves electric guitar music, so I was chaperoned and got to see them play. And then I guess I just kept playing, and up at home I just would sit in with bands who had massive repertoires of songs, and I wouldn't know half of them or have heard them, but just get to play all these different songs. And when I was about, I guess, 19, 20, I started, I put together a band with my brother and a drummer, and we sort of jammed a whole bunch of tunes, probably halfway between what we do now, because a lot of the songs I'd write in an acoustic style and then take them to the band, and they'd be similar to the style of songs that we're still playing, and we still play some of those songs. Yep. And it'd be half like that, and then half sort of these jammy, progressive rock, electric tunes, slap bass and drummy riffs, and that was the band I toured around with, knocking on lots of doors and playing venues all over the place, big and small. I think my acoustic guitar playing, I used to always play electric, but the acoustic came from having to travel and perform in lots of different spaces, and the difference between lugging an acoustic guitar and my brother taking a bass and us doing an acoustic set was just so much easier than taking a Fender Twin and an 4x10 bass rig and a drum kit and hope that the production there would be able to pull it off. So and my brother and I moved to London and just did heaps of gigs with bass and guitar. I guess that's how I got the sort of percussive-y style of acoustic playing, was because at that stage our drummer was still in Australia, so we had to fill up the sound. And
Julz has five younger brothers, so she's the oldest of 6, and every one of them is very musical, so it's like there's always music in the house, and Julz's dad plays constantly. He plays harmonica and guitar and sings, and he plays harp on our most recent album, but yeah, it's definitely one of those environments that was incredibly nurturing for music. Every single one of her brothers is incredibly talented. She's got 3 bass playing brothers,
we didn't like that,
but they all play everything. They all play drums and piano and guitar, and it's no wonder that she ended up
without a secure job. If only there was more banking going on in the house.
But it's pretty nice atmosphere to be around. Certainly would have been great to grow up in.
Yep, that was very good.
Yeah, my family, I am just the youngest of two. I have an older sister, and we just got into it because we both said that we wanted to sing. Mum and Dad took us to the Tamworth Country Music Festival when I was 9. Christy would have been 11 or 12, and we went home from that. We were supposed to only go for a weekend, and we ended up staying for the weekend, and Mum and Dad were going to stay for the whole week following, and we were going to go back to Nan and Pop's place, and it was just no way in the world, we're not going. We want to be here and we want to be part of the music. And the next year we were back and we were singing in all the talent quests, and and it just sort of kept going from there. I sang with my sister right up until I was about 21, and we were signed to a record label and did all that sort of thing, and then that all ended up falling apart, and we sort of went and did our separate things. She was a children's entertainer and still does a lot of that sort of thing. So but definitely supportive family, supportive parents, and in both cases. So we certainly wouldn't be doing what we're doing if we didn't have that, because it's not the easiest thing to create on your own. You sort of need a little support network. So
that's good. And Christy still writes beautiful songs. We've recorded one of her songs on the first album, and still perform a few of her songs. Yeah,
we're probably I'm hoping to do a couple of her new songs as well when we start recording again. Yeah, and Joe as well, Julz's brother, who she toured with, the bass player. We'll probably end up doing some more music with him. He's been living in Brazil for the last 4 years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and him and his wife are looking to move back soon. So I think when they come back, we'll probably
jam out
a little bit more involved. Hopefully, get a little bit more funky and play some samba.
Better looking and more fit.
The dancing will get a bit better. We'll see. Yeah.
Sing a song.
Yeah, sing. Leesa?
Yeah, I won't play. I'll just hold on to my guitar. We might do a song. It's a fairly new one in that I wrote it quite a while ago. I wrote it when we were in Europe last, which was, over a year ago. But we haven't played it that much. So, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to Italy, because it's written about this castle on the edge of a cliff right near this festival that we play in Sarzana. So the festival is also held inside an old citadel, so it's like you have castle walls all the way around you, and it's one of the most magnificent stages to play. So I'm really looking forward to singing this song and hearing it sort of bounce back from the castle walls. High above the water, almost in the clouds, when the day was over, when the stars came out, when the light had faded and the gate was closed, when our hearts were open, our lives were our own, and the walls were built 1,000 years ago. Yet we created history of our own. keeper. I used to hold the key. I used to share the stories of all life's mysteries. The ocean was our playground beneath the open skies, and the night was there for only us. We could almost fly, and the walls were built 1,000 years ago. Yet we created history of our own, and we were the kings and queens that ruled the night. Yet now memories all fade to black and white. All the love and all the smiles, the laughter that remains inside the castle that had once defined the man I used to be. And now 20 years have come and gone, and now the sun is setting on the bay that still remains my home. High above the water, almost in the clouds, I sit and think of all the times we had when I was the keeper, when we ruled the night, and it's joy that fills my heart for this extraordinary life. The birds joined in. It was a nice thorough key.
Nice little shaky at parts.
That's alright, so was I. It's daytime.